Hey, y'all. Want to thank you for showing up this evening. And for those of you who are going to be watching later the recorded version of this, I want to thank you as well for taking the time to look at it. Tonight, we're going to talk about your first mistake. So, where this comes from is the other day I made a post on Facebook, and a very good friend of mine, of whom I think a lot, a gentleman I have a great deal of respect for, but who unfortunately has been a bit bamboozled by a current candidate for governor, not this one, but a different one. And he, every time that I make a comment, he seems to think that it's his job to defend said candidate, which really disappoints me. Not because I think that um, not that I think he doesn't have a right to make his own decisions, just that it's disappointing to see a gentleman of his intelligence and integrity being used by this candidate to defend him. And, the thing is that I don't really have any right to point fingers at my friend. Hey, Rose, I don't really have the right to point fingers at my friend because, frankly, I was him just a few years ago. I made the same mistakes and, frankly, with the same candidate and with others. But so let's talk about it. My first mistake. Now, according to my friend, my first mistake was to leave the Republican Party. Um, a lot of y'all probably know that I left the Republican Party because I was asked to. Actually, I was told to by the chair of the West Virginia Republican Party at the time, Melody Potter, who explained to me that the Republican Party doesn't want people like me. That's fine. I'm not going to foist myself off on people. I'm not going to insist on being somewhere I'm not wanted. That's okay. Doesn't bother me. But the thing is that her explanation for why she didn't want me in her party, or why the party didn't want me, according to her, is because, and this is a quote, all I did was run around spouting the Constitution at people all the time. And since that's a fact, and I can't argue with that, I do in fact run around spouting the Constitution at people all the time. Um, I couldn't disagree with her. You know, she asserts that the Republican Party doesn't want people like me, and then describes me perfectly by saying that I run around spouting the Constitution at people all the time. What business do I have disagreeing with her? So I left the Republican Party. Now, my friend says that was my first mistake, and I disagree with him on two levels. First of all, it wasn't a mistake, and even if it had been, it certainly wasn't my first one. And if we're talking about the first mistake that I made in this context, which is my political involvement, I suppose that would be actually joining the Republican Party. So when I was in high school, Ronald Reagan was president of the United States. Yeah, I'm pretty old. I come by the gray honest, but it's not the years, it's the mileage that wears you down in the end. Anyway, got a lot of miles on me. But the point is, Ronald Reagan was our president. I had heard many of his speeches when I was in high school. I was listening to his speeches and thinking, this guy understands what America's supposed to be. He really gets the vision. Now I've had the chance since then, working on my master's in national security and working on my PhD as I am now in public policy and national security. I've had the chance to actually go back and study some of the things that he and his administration did. Frankly, a couple of them that come to mind that really, really disappoint me are, well, I have a real problem with some of the economic programs that they had, and then also uh, with, well, the bailouts, and the fact that he also, in addition to that, was that he made a deal to allow a what's it called when you let the current illegal aliens who are in the country go ahead and become documented, become legal aliens with the opportunity to become citizens, so that he could get the money to build a wall on the border. And then, of course, the wall on the border never happened. So, there's some very serious failures in his administration, and I have ideas about why they happen and how they happen. But that's not really the point of this discussion. The point is, I heard Ronald Reagan speak when I was in high school, and when I was old enough to register to vote, I registered as a Republican, which kind of took a few people in my hometown in South Louisiana by surprise because that wasn't normal. then again, I don't really go for normal. I try to do what I think is right. And in this case, I made a mistake. I should have just avoided party politics altogether. Now, if I had read before this, if I had read George Washington's farewell address, I would have been convinced at that time by such a great man, a man who really understood what this country is all about, obviously, when he said that parties, permanent political parties, would come between us, would insinuate themselves between the people and the government that we, the people, founded to secure our rights, and thereby actually usurp the authorities of government from us. If I had understood that when I was younger and when I joined the Republican Party, I would have avoided party affiliation basically at all costs, especially with one of the big parties. So, no, I disagree that leaving the Republican Party was my first mistake. Again, I don't think it was a mistake, and even if it had been, it certainly wasn't the first one. The next one was to entrust the research and analysis and the decision making on candidates to that party. So, of course, what I did was what most people do, and I'd show up for the primary votes, and whichever one kind of said some words I liked, he was my guy, and he got my vote in the primary. And you win some, you lose some, but ultimately, whoever the party picks is my guy because we're in the same club. That was another big mistake that I made, and I really regret it. I wish that I had taken the time and actually invested the time and effort in my own personal capabilities into doing the research and figuring out who the best candidates actually were, to defend my own integrity. And I failed to defend my integrity and just went right along with the gang. We were in the same club. They were on my side. Obviously, they were the good guys, right? Because they said words that I liked. And of course, they said words that I liked based on the fact that they had done their research on me, even though I had failed to do my research on them. They had done their research on me in the form of, polls and demographic studies and all that kind of stuff. And they figured out what I wanted to hear. And so they made those words at me. They made sounds that pleased my ears at me. And so I went ahead and my club, my team had a candidate, and by God, he was my guy. Gosh darn it. No matter what else I might hear about him, I was on his team because we wore the same uniform. That was my second mistake. First mistake was joining a major party. Second mistake was just letting them do all my thinking for me. I want you to understand, it's not characteristic of me to allow someone else to make decisions for me. I spent 20 years in the army, and it's funny. It's surprising that I survived 20 years in the army because I'm really not good at doing what I'm told. At least without a good explanation of the task and purpose, the intent behind it, and all that sort of thing. Um, that's been an issue with me my whole life. My dad would tell me, "Boy, do what you're told, when you're told, the way you're told to do it." And my immediate response was, "Why?" Dad would say, "I want you to do this." And I'd say, "Okay, why?" I wasn't being disobedient toward my father. I just wanted to understand what was going on. And the fact that I managed to surrender my will to allow someone else to decide for me who my candidate should be. And the more that I've learned about this process, the more corrupt and vile and disgusting I have learned that it is. And I'm very disappointed in my younger self in for failing to take the time and invest the effort and the mental energy in figuring out what was actually right. I think I probably would have seen things very differently for a very long time. And unfortunately, it wasn't until I was working on my master's and serving as a delegate in the West Virginia House of Delegates that I finally began to understand what was really going on. Because all these years, of course, people have been telling me, "Oh, these politicians are all corrupt and they're all on the take, and they just do what they want and they don't really represent the people." And I said, "Yeah, man, that's true about everybody except my guy, my guy." And my guy was doing it too, only he had me bamboozled. So, I'm I'm not pointing the finger at anyone else and saying, wow, you're dumb or you're bad or you lack integrity. I happen to know the gentleman who started all this has a great deal of integrity. He's a very good man, and I have a great deal of respect for him in general. And, you know, the thing is, I have made the same mistake. And so, what this leads to is, of course, the old canard about, well, we got to vote for the guy who can win. Well, he's not the guy who can win. He's the guy who convinced you that he can win because he knows that that's what he has to convince you of so that you will vote for him so that he can win. I hope y'all understand that. You know, see, the thing is that at the beginning of any race, anybody can win. I know that a lot of people will deny that because, well, this guy outraised that guy or this guy's got a base of blah, 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 blah. The simple fact of the matter is, the people who decide who wins the race, who wins the election, who earns the opportunity to represent the people is the people. That's who decides. So the thing is that you decide who can win. You don't decide, you don't cast your vote. Hi, Amanda. It's good to see you here. So casting your vote for the person that you've been told can win is a result of a few things. First of all, that person spends a lot of money in media. You see that makes them look, I'm not saying you specifically, I'm saying that that's generally how it works. So you see a bunch of money being spent in media and you say, hey, this guy's got it going on. He knows what he's doing, right? He's got a bunch of shiny stuff he's sending out. Now, I believe that the tide is turning against the shiny stuff and people are beginning to understand that it's all meaningless tripe. It's all a bunch of propaganda. And that, in psychology, you basically don't really pay attention to self-reporting. I mean, yeah, it's a data set that you bring in. It's got some interesting data points, but you don't just believe what people say about themselves. I'm not asking you to believe anything I say about myself. Do your research, figure out whether or not I'm lying to you. I think you'll be pleasantly surprised. But the point is, hey, Michael, and here's the guy who can back up everything I'm saying. Mike McGee here, who just signed on, is my best friend from high school. We've known each other 186,000 years. So, well, not quite that long, but it's been a while. But if I say something on here and Mike thinks I'm exaggerating or making something up, he'll tell me. He'll say it straight up because he has no filters. But anyway, hi, Carolyn. But yeah, I can't believe what politicians say in their ads and speeches either, because what they say in their speeches and ads is not worthy of belief. And I only know that because I know the people who are sending these things out. So, for instance, in my delegate district, there's a guy named Donald Forst who is, yeah, Michael says none, no filters. So, Don Forst is running for reelection in District 91 of the House of Delegates, South Berkeley County. And he's got all these flyers going out saying, I am Mr. Conservative guy. I am super conservative, super duper Republican conservative guy. He just voted to kill babies. He just voted to give $290 million of your money to Bill Gates and the Chinese Communist Party. I'm not sure what definition of conservative he's using, but it's not a definition I recognize as being relevant to the word conservative. Maybe he made up his own definition. I don't know. So anyway, you get the idea here. So when people send you information about themselves, your immediate response should be, yeah, sure. And that includes me. Look, I send out letters. I post these videos. I tell you who I am. And you have every right in the world and every duty in the world to say, look, man, I don't know about all that. That might sound interesting, but I'm going to have to research you. And that's the right answer. The right answer is always, I don't know. I'm going to have to check that out. That sounds nice, but I'm not sure I believe all that. And I don't blame you. Don't blame you in the least. And that's the way it should be. As a matter of fact, I encourage you to challenge every word that comes out of my mouth, if for no other reason than because that will teach you to do it to every single person who ever asked for authority over your life. And let me explain to you that I am not asking for authority over your life. I am asking for authority over the government that has authority over your life so that I can take away some of the false authority that it's exercising and give it back to you. I know. You've been hearing that for decades. Politicians saying, "I work for you, and I'm going to make the government work for you." I'm not going to make the government work for you. I'm going to take away the government's illicit powers. That's my intent. All right, let me see here. Amanda Posey. So many pro-life and name-only action speaks louder than words. I'm praying what's in darkness comes to light. Yes, ma'am. Amanda, I have been shocked and dismayed that some of these groups who stand up and say we are the group for life, for liberty, for whatever else, we are the group that supports this, and they're just flat out endorsing people who intentionally do the opposite of what they say they're going to do. And the thing is, when you have an organization that focuses on access rather than principles, that's what you end up with. I could go into that for a while, but I think I actually kind of covered that last time. Sean, thank you. That's a high praise from you, and I'm honored. So, what I'm really getting at here is your first mistake in the case of most voters is to join the club that wears the colors that you like, right? That's the first mistake, because the problem is you then trust those people to do what you have decided they're going to do, what they've told you they're going to do, what they've hinted that they're going to do. But see, they use the words very differently than you do. They use the words differently than you do. So, just for instance, do you have any idea what version of the Constitution, the U.S. Constitution, the government actually functions under? Is it the version that was ratified in 1789? No, no, it is not. It is what's called the annotated Constitution. And if you ever get a chance, I recommend you look it up. The version that was ratified in 1789 is about, a little booklet about that thick. It's, just a few pages, handwritten. But, you're talking thousands of pages in the annotated Constitution. So what is the annotated Constitution? It's where a bunch of lawyers got together and through various court actions and decisions and analysis and all this kind of stuff have decided what the Constitution says instead of just reading the words. So, some judge, some group of judges, some justices take a look at something and they say, well, our culture has changed and more people want to be able to legally kill babies than those who don't want to legally kill babies, or at least the ones who, we hang out with and drink cocktails with on a weekend. Those are the ones who support us, and those are the ones we have to please. And so when we read the Constitution, all of a sudden, magically, this new concept appears in the Constitution, such that, this right to privacy that allows you to privately decide that you should kill your children. And that's nobody's business because you do it in private, right? So that's the sort of thing that's been happening with our Constitution for quite a while. You guys have probably heard of Plessy versus Ferguson. That was U.S. Supreme Court super precedent that stood for about 50 years. And do you know what it said? Basically, it said that as long as the facilities that were provided by the government or by any entity were equal, that it was valid to maintain separate facilities. Now, what does that mean? It means that if you have a better tan than I do, you and I get to go to different swimming pools, different drinking fountains, different bathrooms, different schools, whatever else, because it's constitutional. Now, that precedent, that super precedent after 50 years was finally overturned. And so was the super precedent, Roe v. Wade, which allowed that, you could kill your child as long as the child was really, really young and it was in private. Okay. So what I'm getting at here is that some people call themselves constitutionalists, and that's what they mean. Well, I'm going with the latest doctrine, the latest definition of how this is used, and that's their definition of constitutional. When I say constitutional, I mean original intent. And when I say original intent, I mean going all the way back to the foundations of Western civilization. All right? I'm talking about rational thought as evidenced by the Greek philosophers. You know, they laid the foundation for a system of cognitive, rational thought for discovery and discussion and for pitting one idea against another systematically so that we can actually discover observable truth. So that's Athens. Jerusalem is the next pillar upon which Western civilization was built, and that is the Judeo Christian ethic. Now, we could sit here and talk theology all night. Some of you guys probably know that I was actually I taught systematic theology in the Peruvian Amazon. I started churches, I trained pastors. That's what I did when I was down there. So I've spent a bit of time studying theology. The Judeo Christian ethic can be boiled down to the concept of that there is one who is beyond all of this, that there is one to whom we are all accountable, that there is a law, there's a right and wrong, there's an ethic, there's a moral that is beyond the reach of men and cannot be changed, to which we are all accountable, and that we have to treat each other the way that we want to be treated according to that that understanding of the world, that there is something beyond all of us. That's why it's so important in the Declaration of Independence that all men are created equal and endowed by their creator with certain inalienable rights. What that means is that creation, that endowment, those rights are beyond the reach of any man. No one can take them away. No one can change them. No one can deny them to you. Now, people have the power to deny you the opportunity to freely exercise those rights, but no one has the authority to remove those rights from you. What that means is when someone denies you that right, or the opportunity to exercise that right, you still have that right, which means they've infringed your right, which means they've committed a crime against you. That is that is a foundational concept of Western civilization. So you've got Athens, rational thought; Jerusalem, the Judeo-Christian ethic; Rome, the rule of law. And the basic idea here is that every single human being is equal before the law. What that means is that what is illegal for me is illegal for you. What is legal for me is legal for you. That we are all accountable to the law, we are all responsible under the law, and we all receive the same protection of the law. Right? We have the right to receive the same protection of the law for our rights. So those are the foundations upon which our nation, our government was founded. But if you look at the annotated Constitution, it's very different. It says that these people have certain rights in this situation, and those people might have rights, but if they do this, then they don't have any rights. And all of that is balderdash. It's garbage, absolute garbage. It also asserts the government's rights against the people's rights. The government has no rights that are not derived specifically from securing the natural rights of each individual citizen. So what you've got people out there dancing around and glad handing and saying silly things and claiming to be the constitutionalist, claiming to be the conservative, claiming to be whatever else it is that they're claiming to be. But the fact is, when they use those words do not mean what you think they mean or what they should mean, what they actually do mean. They use them in a very different way. So your first mistake is to believe anything they say. That's your first mistake. So my first mistake was to believe that this little group of people who were insistent upon building their own power, namely the Republican Party, to believe them to the extent that I entrusted my decision-making capabilities to them. That was my first mistake. My first mistake was not leaving the Republican Party. I guarantee that. But anyway, that's where we are. I have, I guess, beaten this dead horse. Let's see if anybody has anything they need to say or any questions for me. What did Carolyn say here? Says he's for West Virginia. His biggest PAC donor spoke against Trump and supported by Mitt Romney. Many of his biggest donors are securities and establishment PACs. Check out his donors and PACs on Open Secrets. I absolutely recommend that everyone check out every single politician on Open Secrets. So y'all copy down that opensecrets.org and check everybody out. Figure out where these guys are getting their money, because if you think, or if you believe when they tell you that it doesn't matter where they get their money from, then maybe you need to pay closer attention, because it absolutely does matter. By the way, guess where I get most of my money from? From people who can't afford to give it to me. That's where most of my money comes from. I don't have any corporate sponsors. I don't have any super PACs. I don't have any big government organizations or, anything like that. I've got friends who believe in government of the people, by the people, for the people. Rose, that is absolutely your right to not vote in the primaries. I don't blame you in the least. I mean, the Republicans at least have made it very clear that they don't want you around. But until it comes time for you to pay your taxes so they can afford to pay for their primary elections and use your government that works for you to instead work for them and run their primary elections for them, because God forbid that they should actually pay for and run their own primaries. You guys realize that, right? That basically taxpayers are paying not only for the Republicans and the Democrats, and only the Republicans and the Democrats, to choose their candidates, but also they're using government offices to do it. So taxpayer-funded government offices, right? So they have every right to have their own little private party candidate selection process. I just don't know why I have to pay for it. Why do I have to pay for a ticket to their party if I'm not allowed to enter their party? Now, currently, independents, unaffiliateds are still allowed to vote in the Republican primary, and it may be the opportunity for you to go ahead and get out there and use your last-ditch effort to try to make some sense out of the candidates they have out there. And some of those candidates might be worth voting for. I have a few in mind who would be. You got Tricia Jackson out of Jefferson County, who's running for state auditor. I absolutely intend to vote a Republican ticket this time, if for no other reason than so I can vote for her, and then also for Mike Riccio in. Well, I can't vote for him because he's in a different delegate district. But if you're in District 90, which is Berkeley Springs over to Hedgesville in Morgan and Berkeley counties, I highly recommend voting for Mike Riccio. And then, of course, there's Nate Kane. So y'all vote for Nate Kane to be congressman in the northern half of the state, Congressional District 2. So Rose, I don't blame you. I mean, I'm pretty frustrated with them, and I feel like they've lied to and stolen and insulted me enough that I should just go ahead and throw them out with yesterday's trash. Well, no. I would never recommend anybody vote a straight ticket, but in the primary, as an independent, you can only choose a Republican or a Democrat, ballot. In the general, you can vote for whoever you want, but the primaries are all about the parties choosing their candidates. So, highly recommend Nate Kane. Haney is a good buddy of mine. He's a VFW guy, veteran. It was kind of funny. I went to this veterans meeting a while back in the statewide veterans meeting, and just walking around minding my own business, and all of a sudden he kind of jumped me and said, "Hey, I know who you are," and we had a great conversation, made fun of each other for a while. So yeah, y'all vote for Haney out there. What district is that, Jeff? Remind me. That's Parkersburg, somewhere up in that area. I'm sorry, I'm out in the Eastern Panhandle. Jeff, help me out. Brandy says, I know a lot of people who think voting is a waste of time, thinking it's all rigged anyway. What would I say to those folks? Well, a couple of things. First of all, thank you, Jeff. That's District 76. And is that Parkersburg? Fairmont. Yes. Thank you. Thank you, Jeff. So if you live in the Fairmont area, 76, please give Haney your vote for delegate in District 76. All right, Brandy, back to you. I'm sorry. So here's what I do say to people who've told me that they've given up, that they're not going to vote anymore. I get it. I understand. I see what you're saying. And when I ask you to vote for me, if you don't vote for anybody else, it's not because I'm okay with you not voting for anybody else. It's because I understand, and if you give me a chance, I'll make it worth your while. So here's what I normally tell people when they tell me that they can't vote because they're just done. I understand. You make a good point. But the thing is, we can't quit. We can't allow them to claim that they were right. We have to keep pushing. So here's what's ultimately going to happen. And this is not a threat. I'm not threatening anything. This is not something I'm saying I'm going to make happen or that I'm going to try to push. I'm telling you, based on a study of human history, what does happen is that when the people can no longer have a valid input into their government, sooner or later they will revolt. Sooner or later they will revolt. So, what I'm saying is, before that happens, let's ensure that we've done everything that we can. Okay, that means we can't quit voting. It means we can't quit running for office. Brandy, I get it. It seems hopeless at times. But the thing is, we can't give up hope. We have to keep trying. And if we fail, at least we failed in a noble attempt to do what was right, which leaves us, and this is a critically important issue, leaves us with the moral authority to pursue other means. I hope that makes sense to you. And it makes me very sad to even think about that. But the thing is, if we quit now, we have no authority. We have surrendered all authority. And if the time comes that we need to pursue other means, if we have not done everything we can, run for office, donated to good people, tried to get people into office, voted and campaigned and waved signs, if we have not done absolutely everything that we can, we have no authority. And all we can say is things are the way they are because I either let or help them become that way. So if you don't use every tool in your toolbox to fight against this now, you have no right to fight against it using other means later. You don't have the moral authority. I hope that helps, and I appreciate the question. All right, let me see here. Well, Dean, I'm not asking you to vote for Carol Miller. I would never ask anybody to vote for Carol Miller. I think I probably told the story about Carol explaining to me that my job as a brand new Republican delegate was to sit quietly, watch the majority leader, and do what he says to do. And you can probably, if you haven't heard the story before, you can probably guess my response to her. What does Carolyn say here? We have to vote. If we don't, then the globalist WF. Yeah, absolutely agree with you, Carolyn. They might beat me, but I will never surrender. And the only way they'll ever beat me is by chopping my head off. I hope you get what I'm saying here. They will never, ever, 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 ever beat me by getting me to quit or capitulate. It will never happen. They will have to kill me. Just a fact. I'm not wishing that upon myself. I'm not trying to make that happen. I don't want that to happen. I don't see that as romantic or anything. I've 20 years in the infantry. I don't think that violent death is romantic in any way, shape, or form. Don't want it. Want to hang out with my kids, my grandkids, and hopefully one day great grandkids. But by God, the only way they'll ever shut me up is by killing me. All right. So Jeff says this doesn't change if we give up. That's true. Jeff, it might not change even if we don't give up. But we have to drive on. We don't have any choice. And besides miracles, it may take a miracle, but miracles come when you do what you're supposed to in the face of overwhelming odds, when you just stand fast and do the job. That's when the miracles come, right? I mean, the story of Gideon. Miracle didn't come because he sat at home, watching Wheel of Fortune and waiting for God to move. God could have moved without him. God didn't need him. God doesn't need any of us. But the thing is, this is how it's done. You stand your post. You take the appropriate action. You follow orders. Miracles follow that. We get the government we deserve. Well, yes, that is a very complex, that's a very simplified version of a very complex idea, Jeff. I do agree with you. Um, yeah, but I'll just leave that there. We could probably do a whole discussion about that at some point. Let me see here. Candidate for delegate Laura McGinnis in which district, Laura? Tell me quick. 60 something. Laura is currently a Republican candidate running against the Speaker of the House, Roger Hanshaw, who is personally responsible for a lot of the garbage that you see going on in our government right now. That's in Delegate District 62, which is Clay, Calhoun, and is it Gilmer County, Laura? Please tell me. So Laura is a just nice lady, a good woman with great morals and integrity and some homespun wisdom, and she just wants to do what's right. And she is running against an attorney with some advanced degrees in chemistry, and very, very intelligent guy, highly educated, very wealthy, got the support of a lot of corporate sponsors and stuff like that. And yes, thank you. Clay, Calhoun, and Gilmer Counties, House District 62, Laura McGinnis. And what we really need to do this year is fire the Speaker of the House by hiring Laura McGinnis. We need her to win that primary. And fire the President of the Senate by voting for Michael Folk in Senate District, West Virginia Senate District 15. That's my district where I live, and I want Mike Folk to be my senator. And if we can fire the President of the Senate and fire the Speaker of the House, that would make some serious changes. Not only because those two men would not be there doing what they're doing right now, but it would send a message. It would put the rest of them on notice that we'll get rid of you too. We can get rid of the Speaker of the House, President of the Senate. We can remove any of them. So let's do this. Let's make sure Laura wins. You guys send Laura some money if you can. If you got any money, send it to her instead of me. If you're going to send it to me, help her win this primary. Get over there, wave signs for her. I don't care if you live in 62 or not. Go help Laura win, please. Jeff, you're not too far away. You say count me in. If you can, please get a hold of Laura. Get over there and help her win this primary. Yes. Thank you, Dean, for clarifying. I knew that you didn't believe that I was telling you to vote for Miller. I just trying to figure out why you were making the point that you weren't. Yes, Derek Evans for U.S. Congress in District 1. That's basically the southern half of the state. Please vote for Derek Evans. I know you've heard a lot of crazy things about him. Some of them are true, much to our benefit. Some of them are true, and some of them are just outrageous lies that people have made up about him. So I tell you what, check the guy out, get to know him, and please support him. Please help him through this primary. Okay, Rose, that's absolutely your right to vote for whichever elections you want. Now, you realize, I'm sure, that I'm not running in the primary because I'm not a Republican or a Democrat, and only the Republicans and Democrats get to run in the primaries and get the the added benefit of all the media attention and the taxpayers paying for their process and all that stuff. So that's nice for them, I guess. That's pretty special that these two political clubs get all that support for free from taxpayers. Must be nice for them. We need to do something about that as soon as possible. All right. We got anything else? Any other concerns? I hope that I made my point clear. I am not picking on the gentleman who told me that my first mistake was leaving the Republican Party. Thank you, Greg. We'll get to Joshua in just a second. Thanks for bringing him up. So I hope that made it clear. I'm not denigrating the gentleman at all. I have a great deal of respect for him as a man, as a husband, as a father, as a guy who has been through, and I'm not going to go into his story. It's not my story to tell, but who has been through horrific things that no one should ever have to survive. And yet he did. And he has built a great life for his family. And I think he's I think he's just mistaken about where to place his trust in this particular situation. And I don't really hold that against him because, frankly, I made the exact same mistake with the exact same candidate just a few years ago. So I understand. It can be hard to figure out who's telling the truth and who's not. All right. So Greg Roberts reminds us that Joshua Mathis needs help to in this primary to beat Eric Tarr. If you guys haven't done your research on Eric Tarr, please do. State Senator Eric Tarr, and you'll understand why he needs to be replaced. And then do a little bit of research on Josh Mathis and see why he's the guy to replace Eric. And then give Josh your support, please. We really need to remove some of these guys who have been pivotal in turning our culture, our society, and our government away from the principles that it was founded on. And then these guys have no interest in what's right, true, or constitutional. That's all there is to it. What else do we have? Thanks, Greg, for reminding me of that. Anything else? All right. So, first mistake, trusting politicians, joining their clubs and thinking that their clubs are actually doing what they say they're going to do. They have no interest at all in doing what you want them to do or what you think they're going to do or what they say they're going to do. So, one little anecdote real quick, and then I'll shut up about this, I suppose. So when I was running for delegate the first time as a Republican who really believed in the team, couldn't wait to join the team. The team was hoorah, good guys, going to go make it happen for the country and for the people and for the flag. And God, we really just believed in what we were doing. The longest serving or continuously serving delegate in West Virginia history was in the House of Delegates at that time. His name's John Overington, and John. So I was actually elected from Berkeley County as a delegate, not from the House of Delegates, but to the Republican Party Platform Committee, and I went and represented Berkeley County in the Republican Party Platform Committee before I was ever elected as a delegate, state representative. And while we were there, we were discussing, what proposals we had for planks to the platform and everything. And you can imagine what mine were, and nobody listened to anything I had to say, and that's fine. They don't have to listen to me. But anyway, at one point I made a comment about how it was very strange to me that all these things were so very important to all of us, and yet they weren't getting done. And John Overington said, "Well, Marshall, platform's not binding. It's not something we actually expect anybody to abide by. It's just kind of some ideas of things that the voters like." I said, "Do you mean to tell me that this is all kabuki theater, that this is all stage managed to give the people the sense that they actually have some input into what's going on, into how they're represented, into how their party is run, so that the party can gain power and momentum from those people and resources from those people so they can go off and do what they want to do?" He says, "Well, you got to understand that the people don't really understand what's going on in the Capitol. They don't really get that. They don't really have that knowledge available to them. And even if they understood what was going on, they wouldn't know what to do about it. But, those of us who've been around for a while, we know what needs to happen. And so what we need to do is let the people tell us what they want, and then we'll kind of look at that, go, and we go do what has to be done." And that's really works, folks. They let you voice your opinion so that you feel heard. This is what I was saying a while ago about access based. You have access. You get to give your input, and then you walk away going, "Gosh darn it, I impacted my government today. I did stuff that mattered, and it didn't mean anything." And they're laughing up their sleeves at you. They're laughing behind your back, and sometimes they laugh right into your face at you. Like when they vote to kill babies and then send you a shiny card with their picture on it saying, "I'm super conservative." You see what I'm saying? So that's what's really going on. Rick, if I understand what you're saying, you're recommending that I run as a Republican. Okay, a couple of things about that. First of all, it's too late. Um, it's too late. The primary is this week. Secondly, I don't have the capacity to behave in such a deceptive manner. Can't do it. I don't. I don't have it in me to do that. Thirdly, I absolutely, utterly will not allow my name to be associated with such corruption ever again. Now, I only say that because I have been associated with that corruption. I have seen it from the inside, and they actually used my name to support their corruption. I can't allow that to happen ever again. I understand the idea. I appreciate it. But I tell you what, we don't need the Republican Party. Get me elected. Get me elected. I'll go in there and do exactly what you're talking about. I will dismantle the whole superstructure that is built on top of the actual edifice of our liberties. I will turn it inside out. I ain't scared. And I don't have an off button. So send me. Thank you. Um, yes, I do, Carolyn. I do see that as a conflict of interest. I also saw it in 2020 as a conflict of interest when people from around the state sent me photos of posters that were posted at their polling places that said there are no write-in candidates. Yeah. Anyway, but fortunately, currently, Secretary of State Mac Warner, who is currently a candidate for the Republican nomination for governor, has finally admitted that the 2020 election was not run the way it should be, but with this caveat: it was not run the way it should be everywhere except in West Virginia, where it was a-okay. That's nice. I don't know who's buying that, but General Flynn endorsed him, so it must be true, right? All right, let me see here. Jeff says standing on principles matters. I think so, Jeff. But I've been wrong before, and Rick's a smart guy, so I have to at least seriously consider what he thinks about these things. And Rick says, "I know, Rick. I mean, we've discussed things in the past, and I know you get it. I know you're a wise man, and you're trying to figure out the smartest way to do things, and that your goal is for us to win, and you're looking at tactical and strategic opportunities for us to win, and I respect that." Um, I agree, Rose. George Washington said this himself. I mean, I kind of alluded to that at the beginning there. George Washington said, "Don't let parties become permanent. Don't let them insinuate themselves between you and the government you formed for your purposes, because they will take it over." And they have. Old George is a pretty smart boy. God bless you, Dean. I mean, that's a very gracious thing. And the only way that will ever be true is if you guys get me elected and then you guys hold me accountable. I'm doing everything I can do. I cannot win this election. You have to win it. And then you have to hold me accountable, because all men are corrupt. I will do my absolute dead level best, but I will screw up. I will make mistakes, and sometimes I'll get off the path, and it's up to you to hold me accountable. Yes, Carolyn, there are irregularities in every single county, and they refuse to admit it. Let me see here. All right, so Greg Roberts says Eric Tarr needs to be replaced with Joshua Mathis. I agree. That's in Wayne, Cabell, and Putnam counties. Out Wayne, Cabell, and Putnam counties. I don't know the district number right off the top of my head, but seriously, I have met Josh Mathis. I respect him. He's got a beautiful family. He's a hardworking man. He tries really hard to do what's right. And I have some other friends who have some concerns about the fact that he's a union member. There it is possible to be a member of a union and to be an honest man. I don't think that he is dishonest because he's a member of a union, and some might think that that's naive of me, and I think that it's simply true. He's an honest man. Let me see here. What else we got? here we go from Laura. That's interesting, Laura. I wasn't aware of that. Well, okay, Greg, thank you. You know, Greg is the ginger avenger out there, and he's a hardworking man who loves his family. You should say the way he takes care of his mom and dad. And Greg, I hope you don't mind me bringing them up, but they're fine folks. And you know, yeah, yeah, there you go. So Greg says, I'm a union member, even though I don't agree politically, and I can understand how that happens. But you know, the thing is that we can't dismiss good people uh, for reasons like that. All right, guys. So I've been running my mouth for a while here, um, and I really appreciate you. I hope that I was able to uh, make it clear that I did not make a mistake by leaving the Republican Party. I don't believe I've made a mistake by joining the Constitution Party, although I am very leery at this point of joining any organization. But you know, just for the record, I was out at the Constitution Party national convention in Salt Lake City a couple of weeks ago, and I had the opportunity to speak. If you're interested in hearing what I had to say, the title of my speech was "A Strategic Vision to Restore the Republic," and I was honored to be able to give that speech. And afterwards, a lot of people in that party came and told me that they were grateful that that we were actually looking into how to go about restoring the republic. And I thought it was pretty good. It was a great opportunity for me, and I really enjoyed it. Let me see here. Oh, there it is. So if you're interested in what I had to say, you can find it at the link below on Facebook. Is it that hard? It's going to be that much trouble? All right. So I think that will work for you. And Carolyn says, let me see here. Rank and file union, skilled trade, supported Trump, and rank and file union members are conservatives, love their nation, work hard. It's people up top supporting rhinos and Democrats. If you talk to many trade union teamsters, tell you not worth voting the way the union tells them to. I think that seems pretty likely to me. But you know, I haven't had a chance to actually poll every single union member I can think of, and you know, I don't like to think of people in demographic groups. I don't think that's very helpful. You know, this guy's a union member, that guy's got a better tan than I do, this guy lives in this part of the state. What matters to me is man's soul, the man's intent, his principles, his purpose. And the thing is, I have learned that I can share a purpose with people who look very different from me, who come from very different places than I come from, who you know, have very different execution of those principles than I do. And on the other hand, there are a lot of people who look a lot like me, God help them, who are from the same places I'm from, who had similar life experiences, who have very different principles than I do. So I hope y'all can see that. I don't really consider demographics to be the primary issue separating people. From my perspective, it's principles. It's what you actually believe. As a man believes in his heart, so is he. All right, it's time to sign off. I really appreciate y'all, and I look forward to hearing also from our friends who. Thank you, Julie. Thank you for straightening out my link there. So I really appreciate you, and I look forward to hearing more from you, and also from the folks who are going to listen to this recording later. Thank you for tuning in. It's a real honor to be. God bless y'all.